Hey everybody, Dan here with Pain Free You. Today I wanted to talk about exposure versus avoidance. So I'll get to that in a minute. Hope everybody's doing well, enjoying the weekend. Relax your body, drop your shoulders. The relaxed body allows you to breathe comfortably, slowly. It sends a direct message to the subconscious that you're okay. So, exposure versus avoidance. And I'm going to start with avoidance. Actually, I'm going to back up one step and just remind everybody, perceived danger. When the brain thinks something is happening is dangerous, it may create symptoms. Could be pain, could be other things, could be any type of symptom, right? The perception of danger is what creates the need for the symptom in the brain, the subconscious, and can either create it or turn up an existing one. So if the danger is really the trigger, the perceived danger is the trigger, what is avoidance conveying to the brain? Well, avoidance says I better not do that because otherwise I'm going to hurt. And so avoidance basically says that thing I'm trying to avoid is the problem, that is the danger. And we're basically confirming the brain's misperception that this thing is dangerous. So exposure is the opposite of that. Exposure is almost like saying, well, my brain thinks that's the issue. But intellectually, I know it's not. All right? I know it's not. Intellectually, I've done the analysis. I understand that perceived danger is the issue. I've done the assessments. It says it's TMS. It's perceived danger. I've accepted that. So by avoiding activities, movements, people, stress situations, social environments, talking to a family member who gets under your skin, by avoiding all that stuff, you're basically saying, well, I know it's TMS, I know it's a mind-body thing, but those things are going to trigger me and cause symptoms, so I better avoid them. And so the brain doesn't really move forward with avoidance. In my opinion, the only way to move forward is to really start to expose yourself to those things with a different expectation, and if symptoms show up, a different response. So, I did a video a while back, 6 steps to resuming activity, but I'll just sum it up here. Decide what things, maybe even write out a list of triggers, and instead of having triggers at the top, cross that out and write things to overcome, things to expose myself to. It could be food. And yesterday we had a great success story with Joe on how he overcame his food problems. And a lot of it was just going for it, bring it on, just making a decision. Nothing else worked. I'm just going to eat. And if symptoms show up, he did his best to remain unbothered. So exposure is how the brain learns that you're actually not in trouble, right? And so this isn't a food conversation. This is everything. Like for me, bending over was a trigger for me. My brain usually made me hurt when I would bend over. And that was when most of my big acute episodes happened, was bending over. I had to learn that bending over is not a problem. I had to teach my brain that by exposing myself to bending over. And so 6 steps to resuming activity. Decide what you want to do. Decide that it's going to go well. Do the thing. Maybe small bites at first. And if you get symptoms, remind yourself nothing bad happened. The brain's just perceiving that to be a threat, a danger. And so you got to do this over and over and over again. But what was interesting was, the exposure therapy, the 6 steps, the graded exposure that people talk about. What Joe found in his world was nibbling on foods didn't help because the nibble was, this food is dangerous, so I better not eat too much of it, which was still confirming the brain's perception of danger even though he was nibbling. And in his case, he had to just go full force and just eat a whole meal. And if symptoms hit, be okay with it, right? So exposure versus avoidance. Avoidance teaches the thing you're avoiding is the problem, is the danger. Exposure teaches the brain that it's really not, and I'm willing to experience the symptom in order to prove and teach to my brain the fact that these things are not truly dangerous. The way out is to go through the symptom, not avoid it. Because the people who avoid symptoms at all costs, they shrink their life, shrink their life, shrink their life, shrink their life until they basically live in their house and don't leave, and sometimes never leave their bed. And I am not in any way minimizing the amount of seriousness and intensity of these symptoms. I get it. I know it's rough. But you've lived through every single bad day, and the way through, or the way out is through. And so be willing to write out this list of things you're afraid of doing and change it to a list of things I'm going to overcome, and then begin by exposing yourself to that. Expect it to go well, and if symptoms show up, be as unbothered as possible. Then repeat. And if nibbling and easing in gradually don't work, then with as much gusto and confidence as you can come up with, jump in and do the thing that you're afraid of. Because sometimes little tiny bites, gradual, just confirms it might be dangerous. And that was Joe's experience in this success story yesterday. He had to just go full force. For movements, it may be better to do gradual. Like if it hurts when you sit, you're probably not going to want to sit down for like 2 hours straight and be writhing in pain the whole time. In that case, graded exposure, resuming activity gradually can work wonders and do it quite well. But expect the best. And if the symptoms show up, be as unbothered, indifferent as possible. Remain clear that you didn't do anything dangerous or harmful. It's just a brain firing off a false alarm. So that's what I got here for you tonight. I'm going to wrap this one up. And as always, love you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.